Welcome back in. You know, everyone would like to be more effective, right? Whether it's an individual, a group, or business, Gray Matters International can lead you to conversations that will result in leadership and behavior change. Dr. Kevin Fleming is here this morning to tell us about his international coaching, facilitation, and organizational effectiveness. Maybe you need to train me a little bit, get my words out today. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, what in the world do you do?
Yeah, basically I try to rewire the brain. In other words, I was trained as a psychologist for many years, and what I experienced in psychotherapy settings was we could describe problems very well. We could really kind of talk about things in a way that made people think and feel that they were changing. But there was this whole other world going on in your brain. The brain likes to be right. It doesn't like to be effective.
Yeah.
And so what happens is when you get into emotional settings and feelings and all that stuff, your brain kind of starts taking you in a certain way, but your words are going another, and there's this chasm, there's this split. And the therapist typically can't really navigate that because we're just kind of helping you get to know your feelings and such. By the end of the time you're in psychotherapy, you can kind of feel like you're changing, but really nothing's changing.
Okay.
So I try to actually get truth back into the process of change by getting the brain back in it.
Okay, so what kind of issues, like use me as an example, what issue might I have where I would go see you?
Yeah, it could be anything in your personal life around changing health behaviors. A lot of times, you know, we go to doctors and they write prescriptions to your, your high blood pressure issues or your weight issues, and all of a sudden we're still struggling there. All of a sudden health behavior changes can become pretty resistant to words, to medications, things like that, and or even marriage issues. Relationships can sometimes need a whole new way of thinking. There was a great quote by Einstein that said, "No problem will ever be solved on the same level of thinking that the problem was created on." And so sometimes you need a radically new way of looking at what your brain is doing to your marriage, to your relationship, to your health, things like that.
Okay, well, let's kind of expand on the last one. Say marriage is okay, having issues but not very happy. I see you, and then how do you retrain my brain? What do you do?
One of the key tenets that I think is a focus of my practice or my coaching work is focusing on the bubble above the head. So in other words, when I used to do marriage therapy, what typically happens is there's someone saying some problem, someone is trying to say the right thing back to the partner to really make the therapist feel like they're on the same page. But there's a bubble above the head going, I don't buy this, I don't believe it, and I'm not quite sure I really want to do this.
So is it kind of like the ego, just like the bad voice in the head that doesn't seem to be quiet? Yeah,
the brain usually just wants to reduce dissonance and anxiety. It just wants to make you feel like you're changing. So what I try to do is I actually do have some neuro training programs where we actually help people get more connected to what I call more the internal dialogue. So what's really going on in there, have that actually match transparently what they're actually saying out there.
Okay,
to people.
So the neuro training, so I mean, do you like put on glasses and it flashes lights on you, or is it really conversational? It
is actually. A lot of it is conversational. At the end of the day, it's time and energy put towards a whole nother way of thinking. So your brain is going to, neurons that wire together, fire together. So when you come in and talk to people in psychotherapy sessions, typically there's one mode of thinking, and that's the emotional level. Basically what you're doing is concentrating purely on emotions. The problem is that emotions are very deceptive. And a lot of people, the more you actually put time and energy into wiring emotional type dialogues, it gets stronger. So even though you think you're changing, the last thing you need to do sometimes, especially in marriage and personal issues, is to talk about emotions more and more.
Yeah.
So we have to actually transcend that and get to a whole other level of thinking to rewire your brain. And it is time and attention. We call it attentional density in the field. It's kind of a heady term there, but we basically try to rewire by refocusing your attention to a radical new ways of looking at problems.
Does it work?
Good question. You know what? It works more than other settings. There's no panacea for this stuff. It's nothing perfect. But at the end of the day, what we find most healing for people is to look at a problem in a very new way of thinking. And many times the problems change themselves when you do that.
Well done. Let's brag about you real quick before we run out of time. I mean, you do this like internationally for really important people.
I try to. Yeah, I have a business practice that works with high-level board members, CEOs. I do coaching around the world. I also get into the political sector. I work as a neuroscience facilitator for countries that are in conflict. So I actually train facilitators to go in there and work with leaders on that level, all the way down to, as I said, to the personal side, to marriages, to families, to people needing a new way of, new hope, new way of thinking, things like that.
So in a nutshell, if we're having issues about just about anything, and we've tried everything and nothing's working, this might be the next thing.
That's exactly right. Exactly. I try to tell people, don't go around the mountain again. Don't keep trying the same thing and selling yourself that you're doing something different. Go to a radically new practitioner that's going to actually bust open your beliefs in ways you've never done before.
How cool is that? All right, thank you.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
appreciate it.
Pleasure to be
well
here.
stated, well stated. Gray Matters International. Give them a shout, 858-9213. You can go online to see more video about this, a lot of more great information. GrayMattersIntl.com, Gray Matters International.